Today we're going to take some notes over chapter 6, which is 6.1 to 6.6, and this is going to help us for our quiz on Monday. So we did this way back at the beginning of chapter 1 or 6. 6.1, write the percent as a decimal. Guys, where's the imaginary decimal on 61%?
Oh wait,
It's behind the 1, okay? So I need to move it 2 times to the left. Jace, what will our answer be? 0.61 is correct. Next one, Michaela, what would 943% be as a decimal?
9.43.
Very good, because all we have to do is just move it 2 times to the left. 9.43 is correct. All right, now on number 2, we are going to actually do the opposite of what we just did. Now it asks us to write the decimal as a percent. Autumn, what would 0.26 be as a percent?
26%.
You are correct. All we do is we just move it 2 times to the right. Madison, how about the next one? What would 5.48 be as a percent?
548%.
You are correct, 548%. How many of you would say you remember doing this, and if that was all the quiz was over, you would ace it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, let's move on to the next one. Number 3 asks us to write the fraction as a decimal and a percent. So when it comes time for your quiz, just look carefully at what it is the instructions are asking you to do. Does anybody remember how to turn 7/10 into a decimal? What do I do, Halen?
You divide 7 by 10.
You do. What is 7 divided by 10, Halen? 0.7. Very good. Now remember, it also asks us to write that as a percent. Halen, what would that be as a percent?
70%.
Okay, very good. So you notice what she did is she moved it 2 times to the right and remembered that there needs to be a 0 there. Would it be okay if you just boxed that in? No, I don't want to see the work like that. So instead, we're going to write out what the 2 things are it asks for. The decimal is 0.7, and when you move it over, it is 70%. So I want you to box that part in, okay? Let me have everyone do problem B on your own. All right, Luke, what did you get for 4/5 as a decimal?
I got
0.8 is correct. And how do we turn that into a percentage?
You move it 2 times to the right.
And what do you get?
80%.
80% is correct. Raise your hand if you would say you got the same exact thing that Luke got. All right, nice work. Let's go on to the next one, section 4. This is asking you for a formula. There's going to be 5 different formulas that we want to know on our quiz coming up, so make sure you have these memorized. Does anybody remember the percent proportion? Halen?
Is over of
You are correct. I want you guys to write that with your red pen. Is over of equals P over 100. We're putting this in red just because it's something I really want you to make sure that you know and you have memorized for your quiz. All right, guys, there's another one here, the percent equation. What is the percent equation? Abigail? P times of equals is. Okay, so the instructions here say to use the percent proportion to solve. Tell me again, class, what is the percent proportion? Everyone say it together. Is over of equals P over 100. All right, so that's our percent proportion. I want you to take your red pen and we're going to underline and circle the 3 different parts that identify the is, the of, and the P. So we've got 15 is, 30%, and of what number? Nasir, help me with this. What's my is? 15. What's my of? X. What's my P? All right, since it's 30%, that means 30 over 100. So that means I do not need to write the percent sign right there, okay? Now, there is a way that I could do this with mental math. I want us all to do it with mental math, and in just a minute, I'll let you choose the other way for the next problem. But remember, our whole goal is to identify what X is. Circle that X with your red pen. You are trying to work backwards to get from that 100 to the X. In order to do that, you need to find the missing link to get from a 30 back to a 15. What's the missing link to get from 30 to 15? Divide by 2. Okay, if we divide the top by 2, because 30 divided by 2 equals 15, we have to divide the bottom by 2. Girls, what's 100 divided by 2? 50 is correct. So x equals 50 is the correct answer. I want you guys to try the next one on your own. Go ahead and start with the proportion. So I want everyone to write this. Is over of equals p over 100. And then I want you to underline and circle the 3 parts and then start plugging them in. Here we go. Let's see how you did. The is we don't know. The of we do. The p we know is 20%, so that's 20 over 100. How many of you would say you did cross products? Okay, if you did cross products, we did multiply 100 times x equals 80 times 20. There's nothing I can do with the 100x, but guys, what is 80 times 20? 1600. Get that x by itself, and you have to divide by 100 on both sides. What's the answer, guys?
16.
X equals 16. Now remember, if you ever wanted to double check the answer, I could take this x equals 16 and plug it in right there. Guys, what is, if you put it in your calculator, 16 divided by 80?
16 divided by 8. 0.2.
0.2. All right, so that's on the left side. What about this right here? 20 divided by 100. What does that equal? It also equals 0.2. So if those two equal each other, we're very happy because we did it correctly. All right, let's go ahead and turn our notes to the next page. This one, it's the same kind of questions, but it's asking us now to do it a different way. What do the instructions ask us to use now, class?
The percent equation.
Percent equation. What is the percent equation?
P times of equals.
Very good. P times of equals is. Reagan, what should I underline and circle in the original problem?
Underline 48 is, circle 75%, and then underline of that number.
Very good. Will you start plugging this in for us?
So
What's the P stand
the
for?
P would be percent, so 75 times x equals 48.
Okay, can anyone identify what one small problem we have right now? Autumn, what is it?
You need a decimal to 75.
We have to change that 75% to a decimal, all right? So we're going to say it's 0.75. All right, back to you, Reagan. What should I do?
Okay, now you divide 75 on both sides. No, 0.75.
There we go. If there's a 0.75 there, we have to divide by 0.75 on both sides, because when you divide 0.75 divided by itself, 0.75, you get 1x. So we can basically just say just x. Reagan, what's the answer?
64.
64 is correct. All right, I want you guys to do problem B with your partner. Okay, just make sure you start off with your formula, P times of equals is, and then underline and circle that original problem, which helps you identify the P, the of, and the is. Okay, as I looked around, I saw 3 separate answers. Some people got 40%. Some people got 25%. And some people got 0.25. Just looking at that, which one can we eliminate off the right at the beginning?
0.25.
Why can we get rid of 0.25?
Because it's listed percent.
Because if you look right here, it asks me what percent, okay? So always be careful. If you forgot to change it to a percent, do that for me now, okay? Everyone else, let's look to see what went wrong, because one of these two is the correct answer. P, we don't know it yet, times of, which is 40, equals is, which is 10. Divide by 40. A lot of people said, oh, 10 divided by 40 is 4. They did that mental math. But guys, 40 divided by 10 is 4. Remember, you have to start with your numerator first. So class, what is 10 divided by 40? 0.25. Now you want to turn that into a percentage. How many of you would say you got that correct before we went over this together? All right, we had a few of you. How many of you see where your mistake was? Okay, that's all right. Just erase it and fix it so your notes are good study notes. All right, let's go on to the next one, modeling real life. Of the 200 middle schoolers, 158 of them signed up for the field trip. What percentage of the students signed up for the field trip? There are two separate ways that you could do this. Some people love the percent proportion. If you do, I would say write down the percent proportion. If you are one who says, oh dear, no, I like the percent equation, you choose which one you like better, okay? On a quiz or a test, I do not care which way you do it. How many of you would say you like the proportion, the one on the left, better? Who would say you like the one on the right better? Okay, so we're like a 50-50 in our class. Here's what I want you to remember. The is and the of. One of them is the part, and one of them is the whole. Do you guys remember which one is the part? The is correct. So I want you to take your red pen, if you would. If you're doing this one on the right, and I want you to write the word part next to it. If you're doing the one on the left, in your red pen, I want you to write part. That's the is. Divided by the of, which is our whole. Or over here, put with your red pen, whole. Okay, so that just helps us to remember the is will always be the part, the of will always be the whole. Go ahead and put that red pen away, and we are now going to start plugging some things in. First things first, we have our is. Guys, the is the part. What part of the middle schoolers went on the field trip? 158. So here I'm going to put 158. If you're doing this one on the right, my is, I am plugging in 158. All right, the next thing we can plug in is the whole. How many total middle schoolers are there?
200.
There are 200. So we are going to plug in 200 for the of. All right, do we know our percentage?
No.
Not yet, okay? So we're going to keep it as equals p over 100, and we're going to multiply it times the p. Now I want you guys to solve for p. Go ahead and do that on your own. Okay, so some of you guys did it on the left. If you were doing mental math, you are working from left to right to try to solve for p, and you have to divide by 2. When you divide by 2, you saw 158 divided by 2 was? 79%. How many of you would say you did cross products, but you still got that same answer? Okay, and you should have gotten that same answer. Let's go to the right-hand side. If you solved it with the percent equation, you have to divide by 200 on both sides. When you do that, you got 0.79. What should I do with that decimal? Move it 2 times to the right so that we can make that 79%. All right, any questions for me on how we did that? Now, once again, in your notes and on your quiz or test, you do not have to show me both ways. I wanted to do it so that you would see you get the same answer no matter which way you do it. And on the quiz and test, I do not care which way you do it. Okay, so here we have another formula that we need to know, the percent of change formula. Do you remember? What is the percent of change formula? AOC divided by the amount of change divided by the original amount. Okay, write that down with your red pen because this means it is some kind of formula you need to have memorized for that quiz and test coming up. Find the percent of change as an increase or a decrease and round to the nearest 10th percent. So we're going to start with our formula like we normally do. Let's write AOC divided by the original. So let's imagine that I planted a tree. Starting off, the tree was 8 feet. 2 years later, it grew to how many feet? 24 feet. Okay, who can help me find the amount of change that it grew over that time period? Okay, 16. How'd you get that? She subtracted the bigger number by the smaller number, okay? And she got 16 was how much it changed. Divide that by the original amount. Jonathan, how tall was the tree when I originally planted it? 8 feet, okay? And you can always tell that by whatever I said first. So we're going to divide that by 8. Boys, what's 16 divided by 8? 2. Now, some people will look at that and say, okay, 2%. But it really doesn't make sense. If a tree was 8 feet and it increased to way over doubling itself to 24 feet for it to have only increased 2%. So here's what you have to do. You have to make that 2 turn into a percentage. Remember, there is an imaginary decimal point right there. What do I need to do with that decimal point? Good job. Move it 2 places to the right. And this will tell us that there was a 200%. Guys, did it increase in size or decrease? It increased, okay? That means it more than doubled itself. It increased by 200%. All right? I want you guys to try the next one with your partner. Something was 300 miles and it decreased down to 210 miles. Go ahead and try to find the percent of change. All right, let's see how you did. The amount of change divided by the original amount. How do I find the amount of change? Subtract. I take the bigger number and subtract the smallest number, divide it by the original amount. Originally, it was 300 miles. Guys, what's 300 minus 210? 90. So we've got 90 divided by 300. When you did that, what do you get? 0.3. Is that my final answer? No. Change that to a percent. What's the answer? 30% decrease. Why is it a decrease? Because it went down. Okay, how many of you would say you got problem B correct? All right, if you did not, are there any questions? Maybe it didn't make sense how we got that. All right, no questions. Let's go on to the next one. We have another formula that we're going to need to know, the percent of error formula. Does anyone remember that one? Nobody remembers. I will help you with it. You're going to write this down. The amount of error divided by the actual amount. All right, put that in red because this is another thing that you want to have memorized. So now we're going to go ahead and use that formula. So if you would, write it down one more time so it hopefully will stick in our minds. The amount of error divided by the actual amount. Here's what the problem says. Mrs. Appleby estimated that 555 people would come to the chorus concert. Unfortunately, her estimate was not right. How many people were there? 600. So we have to figure out what her percent of error was for this problem. Luke, how do I find the amount of error?
Subtract 600 by 555.
You are correct. Divided by, to Kobe, what's the actual amount of people that were there?
600.
Very good. Jace, what is 600 minus 555? 45. So we're going to take that 45 and divide it by 600. When you do that, Nasir, what do you get? 0.075. And Madison, let's turn that into a percentage. Very good. You are correct. 7.5%. Now, guys, that's 7.5%. Was she like way off in her estimate? No, 7.5% is a pretty small percentage. So she made a pretty good estimate of how many people would be there. But I guess everyone was just really excited to come to her concert. So that's why more people came. All right, so we just learned this in section 6.5. Imagine that there was a pair of football gloves that you really wanted. They were $42. When you go in to purchase them at the store, you find out that there's a 15% discount. Are we happy or sad when there's a discount? We are super happy when there's a discount. So I want you to try to remember how we did this. If you don't remember it, you may glance back in your 6.5 notes, okay? Go ahead and do it with your partner, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. Here's what I just saw as I walked around. A lot of people remembered that this is P times of equals is. If you forgot that, I want you to slip that formula in there. This is then what I saw a lot of people do. Okay, the discount is 15%, 0.15. They multiplied it times the original amount, and many of you got 6.3. Remember, this is a dollar sign, decimal point, okay? So then they did this, $6.3. What are they missing?
The percent. Oh, sorry.
I need a zero there, $6.30. Now let's just see if this makes sense. If I wanted some football gloves, and they were, as I said, $42, and I got 15% off. 15% is not that much. It's a teeny amount. Would it make sense for this to be my final answer, that they were only $6.30?
No, it's minus the.
No, but that's the answer a lot of people just gave to me. Remember, that means that's the discount. That's how much you can take off. So if you did it this way, then you've got to take your $42 and minus the discount, the $6.30. If you did that, then you should have found that the answer was $35.70. But there is a faster way that I have taught you. Remember, out of this, you normally have to pay 100%. But they were so kind to us, they said, we will give you 15% off. So that means I get to subtract 15% of that price. What percentage do I actually have to pay? 85%. Change that to a decimal and you get 0.85 times the original amount, $42. In one easy step, what's 0.85 times $42? Not 35.7, but $35.70, okay? On your quiz or test, I do not care which way you do, but please be careful. Do not try to tell me that the answer is $6.30, okay? It asks us to find the selling price. The selling price is $35.70. All right, going on to the next one. This one's a little different because it's not a discount. It is a markup. So still write this down. P times of equals is. We know our percentage is 15%. That's how much it's marked up. We are going to actually write 0.15. Multiply it times the original amount, which was $50. When you multiply those two together, Jacoby, what do you get?
I accidentally pressed 7.5.
Okay, what is 7.5 in money?
Well, that would be $7.50.
$7.50. Good job. Guys, is that the new price?
No.
No, what is that?
It's adding to the original.
They are going to have to add that to the original price because they chose to mark it up. So it's going to be $50 plus their markup of $7.50. So what now, guys, is the selling price? $57.50. All right, let's do another modeling real life money type problem. A store pays $5 for an AirPod case, but we want to find the selling price because they didn't sell it to us for what they got it for. They marked it up by 60%. Start with the formula, P times of equals is. Nasir, how do I do this? Okay, 0.60 or 0.6.
And then you multiply it by $5.
Multiply it by $5. And this is going to give us the markup. Nasir, what's the markup?
It would be $3.
$3. Very good. Now, Jonathan, how much is it that we would actually have to buy it from them? What's their selling price? $8. Good job, okay? Because it was $5. They chose to mark it up by $3. So their selling price when we go in to try to find this case is going to be $8. So yesterday we learned one final new formula, the simple interest formula. Anyone remember it? Nasir, what is it? Very good. Guys, take out your red pens and write down I equals P times R times T. All right, so that's the last formula you're going to want to have memorized. Please make sure you have these memorized before our quiz and test next week. So now we're going to use this formula to help us. Find the annual interest rate. If I could have everyone take your red pen and circle that. A rate. Is that going to come out in units of dollars, percent, or years?
Percent.
Percent. A rate will always be a percent. And then it says to round to the nearest whole percent. So we're going to try to identify I, P, R, and T. Madison, what's my I stand for? $24. And what does that I stand for? What word? Interest. Very good. Next up, we've got the P. Jonathan, what does the P stand for? Principal. What is our principal? $400. Next up, the rate. Abigail, what's our rate? We don't know it, so we're just going to put an R. Very good. And Reagan, what is our time?
4 months. But
Are we happy when it's months?
no.
No. So we have to figure out what portion of a year this is. Guys, how many months are in a year?
12.
12. So this would be 4/12 of a year. Okay, let's reduce that, guys. What's 4/12? 1/3. If I were to turn that into a decimal, it would be 0.33. Okay, so now to the right, we're going to fill in what information we know. Remember, the formula is I equals P times R times T. Halen, do we know our interest? Yes, what is it? 24. Okay, so all we're doing now is plugging that in for the 24. MJ, do we know our principal?
Yes.
What is it? $400. So instead of a P, we're going to put in $400. Jace, do we know our R? No, because we don't know it. We're just simply going to keep that as an R. Finally, Madison, do we know our T? What is it? Okay, 0.33. So instead of a T right there, we're going to multiply times 0.33. All right, drop down that equal sign. Class, is there any work I can do over here on the left side? No. So what do I do with that 24? Very good. We're just going to take that down. Is there any work I can do over here on the right side?
Yeah.
What can I do? Multiply those two together. You guys go ahead and multiply those together for me. What do we get?
132.
132. And we're going to multiply that times R. And remember, we're going to divide by 132 on both sides. Class, what is 24 divided by 132? Okay, 0.18181818. When I turn that into a percentage, I get 18.18%. But it says to round to the nearest what? Whole percent. Guys, what's the whole number there? Just 18%. Okay, so the correct answer is 18%. All right, here's the final problem for today. As you can see here, we are looking to find the time. So we're going to have the same idea. Start with your formula. I equals P times R times T. Our interest is $30. The principal is going to be $500. The rate, we want to make sure we turn that 3% into a decimal. Okay, so at 3%, it would be moved 2 times to the left, so it would be 0.03. And then the time is what we're looking for, so we're just going to keep it as a T. Okay, so go ahead and drop down. We've got $30 on the left side, and on the right-hand side, you can multiply these two things together. When you multiply them together, we get 15T, and then remember we want the T to be by itself, and then you can see here the answer is 2, and you always want to have units attached, so we've got 2 years as our answer. Okay? Hopefully this is helpful to you. Remember, it is going to be over 6-1 to 6-6 for your quiz on Monday.